Hi dear friends, Noor Manjanji here from Sufi Vibes, and we are discussing poetry of Shah Abdul Latif Bhai, classical poetry of Sindh. And during those discussions and reflections, we are touching the certain points discussed in the poetry by the poet. And Shah Abdul Latif Bhai has very beautifully depicted different aspects of the society and different types of human behavior. And as I was going through Surdar, I got reflection on Punro Badamani, a very brave person from modern district Padin, and this was the arm arm of industry in those days. And that area was called Badam, the plains of Badam. And Punro was very brave person, and everyone, none dared to enter into his area. So Shah Abdul Latif had depicted uh, an event in two or three baths, and one bath from it present offers good talk on linguistics, on philosophy, history, and strategy. So I thought that it should be presented before you. So Shah Latif has rightly says, Aju Gurje tu Badamani Punra. Aju Gurje tu Badamani Punra. O Punro of Badam, you are needed today. You are needed today. O Punro Badam, Matha Achi Mu, wherein what don't like. Many an enemy have been reached there over me, so I'm feeling threatened by those enemies, and so you are needed here today. So Punro Badamani, as I told you already, that it was a heroic chief associated with Kutch of Sindh, arm of Sindh. So linguistically, its first line or first half of line, Aj Gurje Tum. The opening Aj or today or now immediately creates urgency. Gurje derived from semantic field of need necessity. The expression is not merely praise of Punro. It is an urgent summons. The person who is addressing to the Punro, he needs presence of the Punro immediately. So you are needed now. The explicit tune gives the utterance a direct, personal, and emphatic character because it is said that it was his brother who called Punro when the people from troops of Argun besieged the fort of Punro Badam. The linguistic structure can therefore be presented Aju Gurje Tum, direct address. The entire first phase becomes to call to action. Badamani Punra. The vocative naming of Punro is significant. Badamani Punro is a proper name, but in Shah Latif's poetic language, it becomes symbolic name. Symbolic name for any of the hero, representing courage, loyalty, and resistance. Thus, the proper noun moves from historical individual to cultural memory and heroic archetype. Matha achimu. The phrase creates a strong sense of immediacy and pressure. The enemy is not simply there, it is coming upon the speaker. The special expression therefore becomes psychological. Approach to the pressure and then danger. The physical movement of the enemy is transformed into a feeling of being overwhelmed. Wherein Batum Layum, very enemies, Vatum, paths or ways or routes, Layum, laid opened, they are arrived. The important word here is Vatum. A Vat normally facilitates movement and connects one place with another. But in this context, the routes have become routes through which the enemy approaches. This creates an important semantic inversion. The path normally enables freedom of movement. Here, the path enables invasion. So, path is used for both of the purposes. That is particularly effective linguistic device. Philosophical analysis of this way will be in a way that central philosophical idea is the ethics of responsibility in a moment of crisis. The ethics of responsibility in a moment of crisis. The key word is today. Shabdulati Vitai is not asking whether Punro was heroic in the past. The question is whether his courage is available when it is actually needed. So, necessity is mother of invention. Shalatif is not asking that how bold was the Punro, but he needs his presence. This is the philosophy of timely action. Heroism as responsibility. Rather, heroism as social responsibility. The Beth implies a hero's true worth is demonstrated when society needs him. As need emerges, then another thing which arises with the need, and that is presence. People need presence of the Punro Badam. And presence is very much critical in politics too. Strength, courage, and reputation have little value if they are not transformed into an action at the moment of danger. Thus, courage plus responsibility plus timely action is equal to true heroism, the individual and the collective. Although the speaker addresses one person, the crisis is collective, wherein are the threatening, are threatening to the community. While Punro represents the individual who accepts the responsibility for collective protection. This creates philosophical relationship between individual courage and collective security. Punro therefore becomes more than a warrior. He represents the ethical principle that the strong have a responsibility towards the vulnerable. Historical analysis of this myth will be that Badamani Punro belongs to the heroic tradition associated with Sindh Kutch borderland. The historical tradition surrounding Punro includes an episode in which enemies attacked his fort. According to the recorded narrative by verbal heritage, his family members were taken captive while Punro was away with the companions. He eventually confronted the attackers and was killed while fighting. So his brother, it was said that his brother said that Adi Gurjentum Badamani Punra. It is effectively a cry of community facing danger and remembering the warrior who is expected to defend it. Punro in Shalatif's historical imagination. Shalatif does not treat Punro merely as an isolated historical personality. He places him with a wider heroic world of Surdhar, which includes figures such as Lakho Kulani, Jasodan, Punro, Sama Jadeja, and Rabari and Ode. Consequently, history in Surdhar is not presented as chronological record. It is preserved through heroes, places, battles, and collective memory. Strategic analysis of this Veth will be this Veth is particularly rich when read from the perspective of military strategy and territorial defense, wherein Vatung lie multiple routes of approach. The plural Vatung is strategically significant. The threat is not represented as coming from one direction. The enemies have established or taken routes of approach. They have been approaching from different sides. This suggests the condition of encirclement of multi-directional pressure. In strategic terms, multiple routes of approach, reduced defensive options, increased vulnerability. The call of Punro therefore becomes strategically logical. A skilled warrior and leader is needed when conventional defensive positions are under pressure. The importance of the mobility. For a warrior such a Punro, the ability to move rapidly and confront the enemy is central to the heroic identity. The historical account portrays him as a warrior who could operate with companions, move against hostile forces, and personally encounter combat when required. The Punro represents mobile resistance at many places, resistance beyond to space, rather than passive defense. Defense of territory, the strategic objective is not conquest of its own sake. The heroic tradition presents Punro as defending to his people, defending his territory, defending his family and his community's honor. Therefore, his warfare can be understood as defensive resistance, not offensive. Leadership and strategic thought. The Beth also contains a sophisticated conception of leadership. A leader is needed when the threat becomes immediate. A leader is needed when the enemy gains access through multiple routes. A leader is needed when ordinary defensive capacity is insufficient. A leader is needed when collective morale is threatened. A leader is needed when someone must convert fear into organized resistance. Hence, Punro's strategic importance is simultaneously military and psychological. His physical presence provides defense, his reputation provides morale. The deeper meaning of Aj, the word Aj deserves special attention. Aj Gurjan Yar. It transforms historical memory into present political and ethical question. The meaning becomes when the crisis comes, society needs its Punros, not merely stories but about Punros. This is why Punro becomes an enduring archetype in Shabdul Latif Batagi. A later reader can understand the Beth without limiting it to original historical conflict. Every age has its enemies, every crisis requires responsibility, every society needs people prepared to act. Four-dimensional interpretation of this Beth will be that dimension is linguistic, central idea is urgent address, direct innovation, indirect invocation, spatial imagery, and semantic invasion of paths. Philosophical dimension of the Beth will be that courage has responsibility and timely action. Historical, Badamani Punro as a heroic defender within the Sindh Kutch historical memory. Strategic dimension of this Beth is multi-directional enemy approach, territorial defense, mobility, and leadership. Central interpretation of this Beth would be Hadi Gurjetu is fundamentally a call for leadership at the moment of crisis. Crisis needs such leaders that can rush and move immediately. The language creates urgency. The historical Punro supplies the heroic reference. The philosophy turns heroism into responsibility, and the strategic imagery of enemies approaching through multiple routes transform the poem into a miniature theory of territorial defense and resistance. So these are main points of the Bed. In this sense, Punro is not merely a warrior of the past. In Shah Abdul Bhatai's poetic imagination, he becomes the archetype of leader whose courage becomes meaningful precisely when the community needs him most. So it was only about this two-lined couplet of Shah Abdul Latif Bhatai, Adigurjan Yar, It Bada Mani Punra. So it was a call for immediate action. However, the story of Punro is very much detailed, and it starts with custodianship and safeguardness of the not only the fort but people living there and people living around there. And when that attack happened, his brother tries to defend. However, he was killed by the enemies, and when enemies entered into the fort, he called his brother that Adigurjan Yar at Badamani Punra. And then Punro himself, he was hundreds of miles away from that court. However, he felt that a horse was running over his breast, on his breast, and that was sign of danger. And he rushed to his court, to his fort, and then on the way he faced enemies and he killed all of them. However, the ladies of his fort were also with them, and all of the ladies were found. Only the two ladies were missing, and one was the sister of Punro, and her name was Amul, invaluable. And the other was a girl from Goldsmith community who was wife of Punro, as he had loved to the lady. So both were missing and they were taken to different cities. After a time, Punro's sister sent a message that I am here and take me to there. So Punro rushed there and he took his sister back. And then again in the last, that lady, that Goldsmith lady, also messaged to the Punro that now you have, although you have had victory, yet your victory is incomplete so far, because still you are missing one thing, and that is me. So take me from here. And then again Punro came there and he took that lady also there. So it presents the story of valor, a story of bravery, a story of commitment, and a story of love to the motherland. And it is also a story of the connectivity among not only family members, but connectivity between the male and female. And it again is focused on the ladies. And despite of everything achieved, Punro rushes for both the ladies. One was his sister and the other was his beloved lady from Goldsmith family. So this is very diversified story reflecting different shades of Sindhi culture, Sindhi bravery, and Sindhi society. Still, that land where the Punro would Badam's fort was situated, still those ruins are called graves of Badam. Badam and the Butt. So the land offers such a many stories of bravery, of love, of commitment and patriotism. Thank you very much.